Yes, everybody, Russ from the West Ham Network. Hope you're all safe and well. Hope your bank holiday is going swimmingly. Although obviously West Ham bringing it on Friday probably didn't help it, but you still got another day for it to go back to work. This morning we spoke about, reports coming out that Potter's only got two games to save his job. So wait and see how that works out with 2 games this week. So we'll see. Then we go into obviously the international break afterwards. Now there does seem to be the player exodus does seem to have started. We assumed hopefully we'd hope this would happen about 6 weeks earlier, but it does seem to be that players are moving out, and obviously that would assume, if they're being moved out, that there's incomings as well, he says. We'll talk about the incomings for Hammer's headlines. Also, we have the Academy show as well coming out today, 6 o'clock UK time. Only channel out there to dedicate a show just for the Academy. Let's talk about no one better than Lucas Paqueta, our Brazilian Magnifico. Obviously scored a great goal on Friday, and reports over the weekend have linked him with moves to Aston Villa and 3 Point Lane. Now, the issue, I think, is, the club have sort of put a sort of, what do you call it? Sort of a temporary release clause, a conditional sort of release clause on him of 60 million. 60 million is yours, basically. That's what we've been told. We are under no sort of news that Lucas has asked for the move at all. And in fact, I thought Friday showed sort of a bit of a solidarity in terms of, all his family were in Daddy 10 shirts and all that type of stuff. But it does seem that people are sniffing around. Tottenham, I think, will be interesting because they're looking at the guy from Como, who would be a similar sort of position to Lucas and maybe cheaper. They're also looking at Savinho as well. Savinho as well from Man City. Villa's an interesting one because I thought they had to sell just to, how have they got 60 million on the hip? I don't understand that. They sold Jacob Ramsey with the majority of that going to their PSR quota. So it's, according to the senior source, it would take us to bring in a lot of players before we considered selling Lucas Paqueta. So I think you will not, unless big money comes in, I don't think it will. He's still got a couple of charges over his head. I know they're the minor charges. Obviously, in terms of the reluctance with the handing his phone and all that type of stuff. Those have been upheld. So there may be a monetary fine or maybe a match fine, in terms of being banned for a couple of games, potentially further down the line. But maybe that's a big enough gamble to take for clubs to look at him. I think those are realistically the only 2 in the Premier League. I don't think Man City will come back in for him. Saudi, I think, is preferred. If he does go, would be the third option for West Ham because he's away, and if he played for a Premier League club, he would end up probably scoring. But I can't see it happening unless there is a dramatic influx of players, and I don't think that's going to happen. One player who probably won't be here in a West Ham shirt in a week's time is Andy Irving, and he's been the subject of a lot of interest in terms of Celtic. They apparently had a £2.2 million bid rejected for West Ham earlier this transfer window, but according to reports, Wrexham have had a bid accepted for Andy Irving. The issue being is now the wage package, which apparently isn't to Andy's liking in terms of what he's looking for. So again, we'll wait and see. You look at someone like Elliot Lee, who's been at Wrexham for the last few years and has gone up through the divisions. I think Wrexham's if you're someone like Andy, you either go to a top Scottish club or you go to a good Championship club. And I think, Wrexham, particularly with the backing as well, I don't think it's a bad deal for him, I think. But again, if it's wages, it's up to him really in terms of where he goes, if he accepts the offer or not. So maybe whether Wrexham will come with a counter offer, we don't know, but we shall keep an eye. And then late last night, it was not necessarily confirmed, but it was suggested that Guido Rodriguez is off to La Liga, not with Real Betis, but Espanyol. And apparently an agreement has been made between with West Ham for the signing of Guido, who will be a Perico. That must be the hammer, sort of their sort of nickname player in the coming hours. no news as such in terms of the pricing and how much we're getting for him. We were looking for around 6.5, 7 million quid apparently, and actually it coincides with quite an interesting article in ABC Sevilla, I think it was, which reported that Real Betis was still very much looking at him, and the club decided to, or the media close to the club regularly dismissed his that link. Obviously, a return back to Real Betis. Obviously, Pablo Fornals plays for Real Betis. Manuel Pellegrini is the manager as well, and Adrian, so is a West Ham connection. He obviously left Real Betis to join West Ham, and I would have thought they would have been in for him. It has been suggested in that article that Espanyol might not permanently be signing him and might be signing him on a loan deal, which I think is probably the most likely. And that would secure him a move back to La Liga potentially, whether it's with an obligation or with an option to buy. I don't know. That will come out in the wash and we'll find out that soon. Obviously, that goes alongside Edson Alvarez, who has left for Fenerbahce. So, that's 3 midfielders gone or potentially gone in the space of 3 or 4 days. In terms of Alvarez, in terms of Rodriguez, in terms of Andy Irving as well. In terms of who's coming in, we'll talk about that at Hammer's Headlines. Obviously, we've been linked with a raft of players. I think it was like 14 in like a day in terms of midfielders, in terms of the 𝗟𝗨𝗡𝗖𝗏 Guardian article. But there's been a bit of development in terms of some of the players, particularly over the weekend's fixture list as well. Anyway, I will see you in a bit. Much love. Bye. Bye.